Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar event today. It is promptly 11:30 Eastern Time this Friday, the 29th of March. We're here to talk about membership children's directory that includes or shows parents' information. It's a fairly complex topic. Our time slot is allotted for 20 minutes. We're going to have to kind of move through the material fairly quickly. The topic today is taken from our M205 training workbook. You can get those training workbooks from the training workbooks or workbooks page on our website. M205 pages 10 through 21. So just for folks who have those workbooks and would like to follow along, that's what we're working with today. Is those 11 pages. But as I point out, it is 11 pages. We're going to be moving through the material fairly quickly. We are recording today's event, so the video of today's event, as we always do, will be put onto the Support Center page of our website sometime within the next week or 10 days or so. With that being said, I do want to point out that we do have under our Support Center now a membership children's directory video recorded from back in 2017. Right here, membership children's directory that shows parents' information from 2017. It is a little bit different, but it's 90% of what we are going to be going through today, just because we've kind of made some improvements and enhancements in this portion of the software. But again, it's an 11-page topic, and we're going to have to move through it really quickly. Please keep the question on topic, folks here. Questions on topic about, the children's directory, custom directory functions, things like that. It is just me today. I don't have anyone here answering questions for me. I will keep an eye on questions. I'll do my best to get those repeated and answered for you. It may occur that it happens at the very end of the webinar event. It may even run a little long. I just want to point out that the topic is that complex and detailed that we might run a little more than 20 minutes. But again, we're recording it, so if you need to go, we understand. Go ahead and dive out when you're done, and then you can come back and revisit the end of the recording when we've released that, or the one that's out there on the website now. Okay? So just want to point that out. All right, so we're going to go into membership. And so many times, we want a youth director or Sunday school director or teachers, pastor, whomever, anybody at the church could want to have information about the children and youth at the church that includes their parents' information, such as name for each child, child's parents, and perhaps additional information like email and cell phone and things like that, contact information. And so we have the ability in the newest and latest or current versions of Church Windows to do just that. And we're going to go through that and walk through doing that, okay? So as page 10 on our workbook talks about, we go to reports. This opens up our step 1 screen. The Step 1 screen here, and I'm pointing this out here just simply because it's important, just helps with a further understanding. Right up here, step 1, who should appear on the report. So again, that's important. Step 1 is always about who do we want to include. So in this case, we're going to go up to our membership, select a membership field menu up here, and we're going to find our field called directory/report order. And we're going to do is equals or is child with family. And we're going to click the Add Selection button down here at the bottom right to add that to our select membership individuals fitting this criteria. Typically in this case, you might want to look at things on the right-hand side over here, like, do we want to include the kids that are just, that are categorized as members, or do we also want to include those that are categorized as visitors? Both. In this case, for our purposes of our webinar, we're going to leave them both. And then, of course, you would want to pay attention to the Sort tab across the top here to determine how you want the report sorted. So when we click on the sort tab, we're noticing here, or as the sort tab says in parentheses, the current sort is name, last, comma, first, alphabetical. And that's the way we're going to want this report. We're going to want this sorted. So we're not going to change anything on that, okay? But that little parentheses right up there tells you exactly what the primary sort field is, okay? So then we're going to simply click next, and that's going to take us to our step 2 screen, at which point, you know, we're working up here in the upper left-hand corner here where it shows what type of report we're wanting, okay? And we're going to be choosing a custom report. This is really the only way to do this. So we're going to choose custom, and therefore the directories that are in our list here, options in there, are not are not in play here, okay? This is all based on a custom report. So what we're going to do is go right down here to the below that to the right and click on the button called New. Okay. So the next thing it opens is our window that new report setups and asks us to enter a name for our new report. So we're going to call this Children's, I'm having a hard time typing today, folks, clearly, Children's Directory. Okay. And we're going to click OK. We can choose, you know, portrait, landscape, paper kind, what have you. We're going to leave it as the default, and we're going to click OK. So it takes a couple seconds here, but then it will open up the report designer screen over the top of this, and folks look at this and they get a little intimidated by it, and I can certainly understand why. Okay, there's a lot here, all right, but it really does just require getting comfortable with playing with it, you know, getting just kind of, you know, there's nothing you're breaking here. If you don't like what you've done, you can always delete the custom directory and start over from scratch if you wish, okay? All right, so the first thing that we're talking about on page 11 here is the header to the report. So we're talking about the very top left section right up here in the upper left, right here, report header, one band, and we're going to do page header as well. But in this case, we're starting with the report header first. So what we're going to do is come down here to the bottom right-hand corner. So right down here to our data controls, and we see down here we've got one called organization info. So the information field, and that's what we're going to choose initially. So we're going to pick up our organization field, and we're going to pick that up. We're going to drop it right up here at the top. It opens up a window and says, what organization field do we want to show? And all we're concerned about at this point is the name. So we're just going to choose name at the very top and click OK. Okay. And then when we click on that field, he said, clicking on it, it highlights it. Notice it kind of draws the little boxes around it. We're going to go up to the very top up here, and we're going to start working with some of our actual formatting controls right up here, okay? And that's displayed here on our page 12, okay? Is that when we, let me get rid of my drawing here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to center justify the organization name, and we're going to bold it, and we're going to underline it. So I'm just clicking center justified, but click the B for bold and U for underline. No, not much different here, folks, than manipulating something in, say, Word, okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to drag, we could include the address and everything, but in this case, we just want to report for internal purposes. We're going to drag that bar up, and we're going to put that there, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and we're going to over under our data controls on the upper right here. Let me get out my highlighter right here, standard controls versus data controls. So right here under standard controls, we see an option called label. Okay. Similarly, we're going to pick up label. We're going to drag it and drop it right up here in our page header. Excuse me. And then we're going to click on here, and we're going to enter right here in our text. We're going to call this Children's Directory. Okay, then that text is going to populate in there. We're going to center justify that, and we're going to underline it, but we're not going to bold it. Okay? Same thing, we're going to pick up our bar here, we're going to drag it up, and we're going to put that in here. Make it so it's, again, giving ourselves more real estate on there. So the report header will appear on the beginning of page 1. The page header will appear at the top of every page of the report if there's more than one. Okay? All right, so now we're adding detailed information such as children's information to the report, you know, address, phone number, parents' information, stuff like that. And I'm going to move through this fairly quickly here, folks, simply again because it's a matter of becoming comfortable with it. So we're going to pretty much exclusively, for the most part, we're going to be working a lot down here under the data controls, but there are going to be a few things we're going to grab up here from our standard controls, okay? So the first thing we want to list is the children's information. So we're going to pick up our membership field down here and we're going to drag it up here and we're going to drop it, okay? It pops up and says, hey, what membership field do we want? And this is true about everything on this, okay? On any time we're picking up a membership field, it's going to ask us to choose that. So we're going to choose, scroll down under our individual fields and choose name, first, last, click OK. Then we're going to go back, pick up another membership field, drag it over there and drop it. Now we're going to come up here to our current address. We're going to choose current address block and click OK. See what we're doing here? I'm going to drag this bar down here to give myself a little more real estate because there's a number of information fields we're adding here. Then now we're going to begin to bring in what we call the field connector. Okay, it's basically a formatting tool. When you're dealing with or look at other videos with regards to that or looking in the help topics here in your files, the field connector becomes really important with regards to formatting and spacing of fields, okay, especially when we're talking about information fields as they relate to one another. It basically means we have to spend less time worrying about formatting fields, okay, and formatting spacing between fields because the field connector does that for us. And what you're going to see here is as I'm dragging over each one of these column selectors, I'm going to be placing specific information in each one of these boxes, okay? All right, and so what we're going to do here is we're going to pick up a couple labels. We're going to drag those over there, and you'll see the reason why I'm doing this here momentarily. We're going to drag those down here, membership label, okay? And then we're going to pick up over here some personalized label fields under here because these are specific to certain individuals within the family, okay? And you kind of notice here, I'm just creating a little bit of real estate in here because there's other fields I'm going to be bringing in here as well. Let me bring in my personalized label again for the second one, and we're going to drag all these in here, okay? So these are how we're identifying the specific information that we want to see in this section of the report, okay? So now what we're going to do is come back down to our membership fields, and we're going to drag them over here. So each one of these is going to have a different and unique membership information field. So we're not doing address information. We're going down here to family, and we're doing address and phone. So we're going to do primary or family phone. Click OK. Down here, we're doing membership field, and we're doing names. So we're going down to individual, and we're doing name first, last, first, last, whatever, however we choose to do it. Click OK. Notice here, we've got red or magenta, okay? This is a good thing to show you here because it's important to understand that anything having to do with it has red is implying that we've got something that's either overlapping or in this case it's falling outside of the actual field connector in this case. And that's something that we need to address. So here we notice that when I click on my name first last, I've got it kind of fallen outside the field connector. So all I'm going to do is just pick that up, drag that back in there, and notice that that magenta goes away. Okay. So our next membership field we're picking up here is going right here next to the personalized label. And we're going to go down to our individual fields. We're going down to personal information fields, and we're going to find cell phone. So there's our cell phone field. We click OK. We're going to do membership field again. And then we're going to do this one, make this one our email address, and click OK. Okay? So what we've done now is we've included all of the information fields and their respective identifiers. Now we need to associate each one of these fields with one another. Okay? And so how we're doing that first is we're going right up here to our first label, and we're clicking on, you see the little white arrow there right up here? Let me get up my highlighter. Right up here, we got that little arrow right there, okay? That, if we click on that, that becomes very important here, okay? When we click on that, it brings up and requests us to enter some information. So the first thing we're going to do is type in our text. So we're going to call this, home phone. In there and a hyphen and a space, and we click off that. And notice now it says home phone. And this one we're going to label, and when we click on the one here below it, we're going to also enter its text here, and we're going to call this parent's name, and I'm going to put in name, parentheses, S, again, space, hyphen, space. Click off that. Okay. Now we're basically going over to these fields and we're saying who these fields belong to. So under our home phone family, omit selected field if selected field is empty, we would have to choose now, we're going to have to choose who this belongs to, is omit if selected field is empty. Well, if they don't have a home phone, we don't want to include that. So we're going to choose under family, phone family for family. So basically what it does is it takes out that whole entire line if there is no home phone for the family, okay? Over here on the right, we don't have to do anything because, again, it's tied over to our label. So then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do our parents' names. We're going to omit this field if, sorry, I have to identify it for the field first. So names, we have to change it to, over here, the names we're wanting to include are the names of our parents. Excuse me. And then we choose that. Then we go back over here, and now under omit if selected fields are empty, name for parent adults of children. Now, that's probably not going to be the case, but we don't want to include another blank field for parents that don't exist. So if it's a single parent family, we don't want to include another space for a second spouse or person there when it doesn't exist. Okay, I think you're starting to get the idea here, okay? So here we're going to call this one, our text for our cell phone is going to be called cell phone. Again, space, hyphen, space. Click off that. Call this one email, personalized label, space, hyphen, space. And again, we have to identify the fields for those folks. So here under cell phone and email, we change it from individual because we've asked for the query as the children. We don't want to display the children's information. We want the parents' email, cell phone. Okay. Same is true for our email address. Now we have to go back to our original labels, and we have to choose for family member, parents, children of individual, omit this field if cell phone for parents or children is empty, and we have to do the same thing for our email address field, okay? Identifying the specific fields with the particular people that we're wanting to include or omit, as the case may be, okay? So now I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. I want to leave a little bit of space between these so there is some separation, okay? So if we close out now and it pops up, it'll say, asked us to display our directory or save it. We're going to click yes. We're now back at our report. We're going to click print and see how it looks. Okay. And frankly, it looks pretty good. Excuse me, folks. I'm getting over a cold here. So here we see Richard Arnold, the address, home phone, the one parent's name, Jen's cell phone, and Jen's email. Okay, then there's some space. Can maybe pull that up a little bit, but it looks pretty good. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with this. Now, there are some things we can tweak about this a little bit. Okay, if there are other two parents involved in the family, which I think we're going to find that down here. Yeah. So let me zoom in a little bit. We're kind of running short on time. I'm going to have to move through this other stuff pretty quickly. Right here, we've got Judith Knox, we've got Jake and Sarah, mom and dad, so we've got Jake and Sarah's cell phone, and it tells us clearly Sarah doesn't have one. Jake and Sarah's email, so Jake Knox has one, Sarah and her email, their address, okay? So this is really actually pretty good, all right? So maybe we want to make this 2 columns. So we go back to our here, we're choosing our children's directory, still selecting custom. Now to the top left, instead of choosing new, we're going to choose the button after choosing that, the one called edit. Okay, so then when we click on edit, it opens us right back to where we were. Okay, so we're going to go right up here to the upper right hand corner, right up here to this little icon right up here. And then when we click on that, it brings up a window and it says number of columns, and we're going to change that from 1 to 2. And we're not going to do anything with column spacing. It's down then across. If you want it to be across then down, you can change that. But we're going to click OK, and it says you may need to adjust the labels, fields, and in this case, like field connectors, so they're not overlapping for repeating columns. So we click OK on that, and we notice here it says space for repeating columns. Well, notice we don't have any red or magenta. So I think we should be good on that, okay? And you can go down here to this preview. This just includes some information that we've included in the database on it to look at that, okay? So just be aware you can do that if you wish you don't have to close out of the actual report to see it, but then, you can toggle back and forth between designer and preview to make those changes to the desired layout if you're wishing, and then only save it when you're done. So I can either close or do save as, and it'll pop up. Then I'm going to resave the name and click print, and might take a few seconds here, but it looks like it's trying to generate the report preview. I'm sorry, folks. This does this periodically. I'm not sure why. Come on. There we go. So there we have it. We've got our children name at the top first, address and home of the family, home address, home phone, mom or mom and dad, parents' name, parents' email, and cell phone address information, all included in a very nice looking, very similar to our directory format.